silence of space was heavy around the broken alien ship. James floated carefully through the shattered hull, his flashlight cutting thin beams into the darkness. The ship looked dead, lifeless, as if it had been floating here for years. But James knew something was wrong. The distress signal had not stopped. It was weak, almost fading, but still calling out for help. He touched the cold metal walls, feeling strange marks burn deep into them. These were not signs of an accident, they were scars of battle. Weapons had torn this ship apart. James felt his chest tighten. He was not alone here. Something had happened. Something terrible. As he moved deeper, the silence broke. A sound, soft but sharp, echoed in the long corridor. It was like breathing, but broken, shallow, painful. James froze, his light shaking in his hand. Then he saw it. A chamber sealed with glass fogged from the inside. A shadow moved within it, slow and weak. He stepped closer, heart pounding, and then a hand slammed against the glass from inside. Thin fingers spread wide, desperate, trembling, and a voice, muffled but clear enough, cried out, "I can't breathe!" James's body went cold. Not because it was an alien, but because the voice was full of fear, pain, and the same desperation any human might cry with. He pressed his hand against the glass. Inside, he saw her. She was not the monster he had imagined. Her skin glowed faintly pale, her hair silver like flowing threads, her eyes were wide, pleading, gasping for air. An alien woman, trapped, dying. James tried the control panel beside the chamber. Dead, no power. He cursed under his breath and pulled out his tools. His hands moved fast, his training guiding him. The sound of her weak fists hitting the glass made his heart beat faster. She was suffocating. He had only minutes, maybe seconds. Finally, sparks flew as he forced the seal open. The door hissed, gas rushed out, and she collapsed forward into his arms. She was light, too light, like her body had no strength left. Her breathing was shallow, her lips trembling. James quickly connected his own oxygen mask, lowering it to her face. "Breathe," he whispered, though he knew she did not understand his words. But her chest rose, then fell and rose again. She was breathing. Alive. Her eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly in the dim light. She looked at him, afraid, confused, but also grateful. Her lips moved, forming words in a language he did not know. Then she tried again, weaker this time. "Hunters," she whispered. James frowned. "Hunters?" Before he could ask, she coughed, her hand clutching her chest. That was when he noticed it. A faint glow under her clothes, near her heart. Something pulsed there, not just light, but energy, alive and strange. James felt a chill. This was not just a survivor. She carried something inside her, something dangerous or maybe precious. The woman's body shook, her voice trembling. "They will come," she whispered, barely able to speak. James looked around the broken ship. The silence seemed heavier now. His instincts told him she was right. Someone would come for her. And soon, he helped her stand, though her legs were weak. Her eyes darted around, filled with fear. She kept glancing at the shadows as if something might crawl out of them. James felt the hair on his neck rise. This place was not safe. He needed to get her out. But then, as he pulled her toward the exit, he heard it. A sound that froze his blood. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Echoing in the corridor behind them. Not his footsteps, not hers. Someone else was here. The woman's grip tightened on his arm. Her glowing eyes widened with terror. "Hunters," she whispered again, this time louder. James raised his flashlight, pointing it down the dark hall. The beam trembled, catching only dust, broken walls, and silence. But the footsteps came again, closer this time, steady, searching. Someone was coming for them. James pulled her behind a fallen metal plate, hiding in the shadows. His heart pounded so loudly he was sure it would give them away. The woman buried her face against his shoulder, her body shaking. The footsteps stopped. Silence. James held, his breath, Then a shadow moved across the wall, tall and sharp. Whoever it was, they were right there. James gritted his teeth. He had come here for a simple salvage run, but now he was holding a dying alien woman in his arms, hunted by unknown enemies. And the worst part, his heart told him he could not leave her. Not now, not ever. The shadow paused, listening, searching, and James knew the hunt had already begun. The air inside the broken alien ship grew heavier. James held the alien woman close, her fragile body trembling. Her silver hair brushed against his arm as she tried to breathe. But her glowing eyes were not on him. They were fixed on the dark corridor. Her lips moved with one word, filled with terror. Hunters. The footsteps came again, slow and careful, echoing across the ruined metal walls. James swallowed hard, his mouth dry. He had no weapon strong enough for a fight, only a small plasma cutter. But the way the woman clung to him told him one thing. If the hunters found her, it would mean death. Not only for her, maybe for him too. He dragged her deeper into the corridor, hiding behind a collapsed section of wall. The light from his helmet flickered across broken pipes and shattered glass. He killed it, plunging them into darkness. Now only the faint glow from the woman's chest lit the shadows. She covered it quickly with her hands, but the weak light still leaked through her fingers. James whispered, "You need to stay quiet," though he knew she might not understand. Her eyes, wide and fearful, said she understood enough. The footsteps grew louder. Voices followed, low and rough, speaking in a strange tongue. James peeked through a crack in the metal. 3 figures moved down the hall. They were tall, armored, their helmets glowing red, like burning coals. Each carried weapons that hummed softly with deadly energy. Hunters. One of them scanned the corridor with a device, its light sweeping over the wreckage. James pulled the woman closer, hiding her against his chest. Her breathing was shallow, shaking. He felt her fingers digging into his sleeve. She was terrified, more terrified than he had ever seen anyone. Not of death, but of capture. The hunters spoke again, their voices metallic under their helmets. Then one of them raised a weapon, pointing it at the wall near James's hiding place. James's heart stopped. The hunter fired. A bolt of energy cut through the wall with a hiss, metal melting where it struck. The woman gasped, covering her mouth too late. The hunters turned, hearing the sound. James acted fast. He grabbed her hand and pulled her down a side passage. The hunters shouted, their voices sharp and angry. Heavy footsteps pounded after them. The narrow halls shook with every blast fired from behind, sparks raining down as walls exploded. James's lungs burned as he ran, pulling the weak alien woman. With him, her legs struggled to keep up, but her will to survive kept her moving. They ducked into a storage chamber, slamming the door shut behind them. James pressed his back against it, panting. The woman collapsed to her knees, clutching her chest. Her glowing core pulsed faster now, brighter. James crouched beside her, whispering, "I'm twice to stay with me." Her lips moved and she spoke, struggling with words. "They want this." She pointed weakly at the light in her chest. "Crystal power. Life." James stared at the glow, realizing for the first time that it was not just keeping her alive. It was something greater, something powerful enough for hunters to cross the stars to claim. She coughed, shaking her head. "No safe. If they take, all die." Before he could ask more, the door shook. The hunters were outside, trying to force it open. The sound of metal twisting filled the room. James looked around desperately, searching for a way out. In the corner, he saw an old maintenance hatch half buried under debris. He rushed to it, tearing away broken pipes and fragments of glass. The woman tried to rise, but her strength failed her. James lifted her in his arms, carrying her to the hatch. Her light glowed, brighter against his chest, almost burning. The door behind them screeched, sparks flying as claws tore through the metal. James shoved the hatch open and crawled inside, dragging the woman with him. The tunnel was narrow, barely wide enough for his shoulders. He crawled fast, the woman whispering weak warnings. "Danger, always find us." Her words sent a cold chill down his spine. If what she carried was truly that valuable, then the hunters would never stop. A blast echoed behind them, the hunters breaking through. The tunnel lit up red as their scanners swept forward. James pushed harder, his muscles screaming. The woman coughed, trembling in his arms. Her glow flickered like a dying flame, but when he looked into her eyes, he saw strength there. Even broken, even hunted, she refused to give up. At last, the tunnel spilled out into a wider chamber. It looked like the remains of a control deck, shattered screens glowing faintly. James set her down gently against the wall. She closed her eyes, whispering, "Run, leave me." James shook his head, his voice fierce. "Not a chance." The hunter's footsteps thundered closer. James grabbed a steel bar from the wreckage, the only weapon he could find. It felt useless against their armor, but it was all he had. He looked at the woman, her glowing chest casting light across the ruined deck. She opened her eyes, and for a moment, there was trust in them, trust in him. The hunters entered, 3 shadows filling the doorway, their red eyes locked on the woman. One raised a hand, pointing straight at her. The leader's voice was clear now, cold and certain. "Give us the crystal or die." James tightened his grip on the bar, his heart pounded, his breath sharp. The control deck shook as the hunters stepped forward. Their red eyes glowed in the smoke and their weapons hummed with deadly energy. James stood in front of the alien woman, gripping the steel bar tighter. He knew it was useless, but his heart told him he could not run, not while she sat weak and trembling behind him. The leader of the hunters tilted his head, almost amused. "Move aside, human." His voice came out deep and metallic. "This does not concern you." But James did not move. His body shook, but his voice was firm. "She stays with me." The hunters exchanged looks, their laughter cold and sharp like knives. To them, James was nothing, a single man standing against trained killers. The leader raised his weapon, the barrel glowing hot. In that moment, James thought it was over, but the alien woman cried out, her voice breaking through the smoke, "No!" The glow in her chest flared bright, filling the room with white-blue light. The hunters staggered back, shielding their eyes. James turned, stunned. The crystal embedded in her chest pulsed like a beating heart, alive and furious. The hunters shouted something in their language and fired blindly. Bolts of energy ripped across the deck, exploding panels and throwing sparks. James acted fast. He grabbed the woman, lifting her into his arms. Her body was so light he felt, as if he was carrying a child. He ran through the chaos, weaving between blasts that nearly tore him apart. The ship groaned as fire spread across the walls, smoke choking the air. Behind him, the hunters roared, chasing after them. James pushed through a half-broken door into a narrow hallway. Metal creaked above as the wreck groaned under the weight of space itself. "Stay awake," he whispered to her. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly. She breathed a single word, "Escape." And then she passed out in his arms. The hunters fired again, the hallway lit with red light. James ducked as energy burned across the walls. He sprinted, his legs screaming, lungs burning. But ahead, through the shattered frame of another door, he saw it, the hangar. Inside the hangar, his small shuttle waited. The craft was battered from entry but still alive. Hope surged through him. If he could reach it, they might survive. The hunters were close behind, their footsteps like thunder in the halls. James pushed harder, nearly stumbling as the floor shook under an explosion. He reached the hangar door, forcing it open. The hunters shouted, their weapons glowing brighter. James ran across the broken floor, carrying the alien woman like his life depended on it, because it did. The shuttle's hatch slid open as his wristband signal activated it. He jumped inside, sealing the door just as a blast struck the hull. The shuttle shook violently, warning lights flashing. The hunters did not stop. They fired again and again. The metal skin of the shuttle burned, alarm screaming. James dropped the woman gently into the co-pilot seat. Her eyes opened weakly, her lips trembling. "Go," she whispered. James slammed the controls, engines roaring to life. The hangar lit up with fire as the thrusters burned away the shadows. The shuttle lifted, scraping against broken beams. The hunters scrambled, leaping across the deck. One of them clung to the wing, striking it with a blade that sparked against metal. James shook the shuttle hard, slamming it against a wall. The hunter was thrown off into the burning wreckage. But two more kept firing from below. Their shots struck the engines, shaking the craft. James pulled hard on the controls, forcing the shuttle out into open space. Debris spun around him, glowing with fire from the wreck. The hunter's ship loomed in the distance, black and massive, like a predator waiting in silence. James's heart sank. They were not safe yet. Not even close. The alien woman stirred. Beside him, clutching her chest, her voice was faint but filled with warning. They will follow. Never stop. James looked at her, seeing the pain in her eyes. Her body was failing, but the crystal inside her burned brighter than ever. He gritted his teeth. Then we'll outrun them. He slammed the throttle, the shuttle tearing. Through the asteroid field, rocks the size of mountains spun around them, colliding, breaking. James twisted the controls, weaving through narrow gaps. Each second felt like death was only a breath away. The hunter's ship lit up behind them, releasing smaller crafts that streaked through the darkness. Chasing, hunting, closing in. The woman cried out, clutching her chest as the glow surged painfully. James reached over with one hand, holding hers tightly. "Stay with me. Don't give up," he said. Her voice broke. "It hurts. It is alive. It will burn me." James's eyes widened. He understood now. Whatever that crystal was, it was not just energy. It was something living, something more. The hunters closed in, their ships firing, red blasts cutting through the asteroids. James twisted hard, scraping the shuttle through a narrow gap that shredded metal from the wings. One hunter ship smashed into a rock and exploded, but two more stayed on him. The woman opened her eyes, glowing brighter. Her weak voice whispered, "Protect it, or I'll die." Her words filled him with fire. James set his jaw, pushing the shuttle harder. He had no weapons, no defenses, only his will and the fragile hope beside him. But he would not let them win. Not while she lived. Not while her trust rested in his hands. The hunters fired again. The shuttle shuddered, alarms blaring red. Sparks flew across the control panel. James gripped the controls tighter, eyes burning with fury. He whispered to himself, "You want her? You'll have to kill me first." The shuttle drifted through the asteroid field, its engines sputtering. Smoke rose from the panels, warning lights blinked red. But for the moment they were alive. James's hands trembled as he guided the shuttle into the shadow of a large asteroid hiding from the hunters. The massive rock shielded them from scanners, at least for a while. Only silence filled the small cabin, broken by the sound of Lyra's weak breathing. She sat in the co-pilot seat, her body shaking, her pale skin glowing faintly under the light of the crystal. James unbuckled and leaned toward her, his heart heavy. Her eyes were half closed, lips pale. He pulled out a small medical kit, though he doubted it could help someone not human. Still, he had to try. "Stay with me," he whispered, pressing a scanner near her chest. The device buzzed and flashed with symbols he didn't understand. All it told him was obvious. The glow in her chest was unstable. It pulsed too fast, too bright, as if it was burning her from the inside. James cursed under his breath and set the device aside. He had no idea how to save her. And yet when her trembling hand touched his wrist, his heart steadied. Her voice was soft, broken, but clear enough. "You help me." James looked into her glowing eyes, surprised she was even speaking. She struggled with the words, her accent heavy. "Why? You risked life. For me?" The question cut deeper than he expected. He had no answer, not really. Maybe because he could not stand to watch someone die in front of him. Maybe because, when she looked at him, he saw something more than alien. He saw pain, loss, and hope. Things he understood all too well. Finally, he said, "Because you shouldn't be alone." Her lips trembled, almost forming a smile. But then her face twisted with pain, and she leaned forward, coughing. James caught her before. She fell, supporting her against his chest. He could feel the heat of the crystal through her skin, its rhythm strange, alive. Her words came out in a whisper. They destroyed my home. James froze. She wasn't just running. She was the last of her kind. Her voice shook as she spoke, broken pieces of story spilling out. My people. Peaceful. Crystal was gift. Life of world. Hunters came. Wanted. It killed all, burned sky. Her eyes filled with tears that glowed faintly, sliding down her cheeks. I ran. Only one left. Her voice broke on the last word, her head falling weakly against his shoulder. James closed his eyes, his chest heavy with sorrow. He knew loss, too. The memory of Earth's wars, of his own family lost in fire, came rushing. Back pain met pain, and for a moment they were not human and alien, only two souls broken by violence. He whispered, I'm sorry. She raised her head slowly, her glowing eyes meeting his. Her lips moved again. No sorry, you here. And then she reached out, her fingers brushing his cheek with trembling trust. The touch was gentle, fragile, yet it carried the weight of a bond forming in silence. The shuttle shook suddenly, alarms blaring. James rushed back to the controls, scanning the radar. A hunter ship was near, searching, its scanners sweeping the field. James killed the engines, plunging them into darkness. The shuttle drifted silently in the shadow of the asteroid. His heart pounded as the radar beeped, showing the hunters closing in. If they were found, it was over. Lyra touched his arm, her voice weak but calm. They always follow. James nodded, gripping the controls tighter. They won't take you, he said, his voice low and firm. She looked at him with eyes filled with both fear and trust. For the first time, she believed him. Minutes crawled by, like hours as the hunter ship scanned the rocks. Every beep of the radar made James's throat tighten. He held his breath, praying the asteroid's shadow would hide them. Finally, the hunter ship moved on, disappearing into the black void. James let out a long breath, sweat rolling down his neck. Lyra leaned back in her seat, closing her eyes. For the first time since he had found her, her face seemed a little calmer. James studied her in silence. He wondered how someone so fragile carried something so powerful. The crystal pulsed softly now, like it too was resting. He thought of her words, the last of her kind. He felt anger boil inside him, not at her, but at the hunters, at the thought of anyone who could wipe out an entire people just for power. His hands clenched into fists. He had promised himself he would survive this mission, make it home. But now he knew he had a new promise. He would keep her safe no matter the cost. The shuttle's systems beeped, warning of failing fuel. James sighed, looking at the broken panels. They couldn't hide here forever. Soon they would have to move. But when he looked back at Lyra, her silver hair glowing faintly, her fragile form resting in the seat, he felt strength rise inside him, not just strength but purpose. For the first time in years, James did not feel alone, and for the first time she did not either. In the silence of the dark shuttle, hunted and wounded, two souls from different worlds found something rare. A bond. The shuttle drifted out of the asteroid field, its fuel nearly gone. James sat at the controls, his eyes heavy from exhaustion. Beside him, Lyra slept, her body weak but calmer, the glow in her chest pulsing like a tired heartbeat. For a moment, the silence of space felt safe, but James knew better. Safety was an illusion. The radar blinked, a signal cutting through the static. James frowned, leaning closer. It wasn't the hunters this time. It was human. A coded beacon flashed across the screen, one only Earth vessels used. His heart leapt with relief. Maybe, just maybe, he had found help. Minutes later, a massive warship emerged from the black, its silver hull shining with the marks of Earth's navy. The sight nearly brought tears to James's eyes. He had been out here for so long, alone, hunted. And now, finally, his own people had come. The warship's voice crackled through his comms. Unidentified shuttle, this is Commander Vaynar of the Atlas. You are in restricted space. Prepare to dock immediately. James pressed the comms, his voice shaking, with relief. This is Engineer James Hale, salvage crew out of Mars Colony, requesting emergency aid. I have a survivor aboard who needs medical attention. The warship's hangar opened, guiding him in with beams of light. James landed the shuttle with shaky hands, his heart pounding with hope. He looked at Lyra, still asleep. You're safe, now, he whispered. The shuttle doors hissed open and soldiers in Earth uniforms rushed aboard. James stood quickly, holding up his hands. She needs help. Don't hurt her. The soldiers looked at him strangely but said nothing. They lifted Lyra gently onto a stretcher, carrying her toward the warship. James followed, his chest light with relief. Inside the warship, the air was clean, the lights bright. It felt like stepping back into civilization after crawling through nightmares. Commander Vaynar, a tall man with sharp eyes, met him in the corridor. You've done well, Hale, he said, his voice cold but firm. We've been tracking this situation for some time. James blinked, surprised. You know about her? Vaynar's gaze hardened. We know everything. He turned toward the soldiers carrying Lyra. Take the specimen to containment. James froze. His relief cracked into confusion. Specimen? No, she's alive. She's a person, not... Vaynar cut him off with a sharp hand. She is not a person, she is a weapon, and you've done your duty bringing her here. The words hit James like a blade. He stepped in front of the soldiers, blocking their path. You can't do this, he said, his voice shaking. She trusted me. I promised to protect her. The soldiers raised their weapons at him, cold eyes behind their visors. Vaynar stepped closer, his face calm but deadly. Listen to me, Hale. You are an engineer, not a soldier, not a commander, not a savior. Your job is over. James's hands clenched into fists, anger burning in his chest. He looked at Lyra, her glowing form barely conscious on the stretcher. Her eyes fluttered open, confused, frightened. Her lips formed a single word. James, the sound of his name, so fragile, so filled with trust, shattered whatever doubt he had left. He turned back to Vaynar, his voice low and fierce. No, I won't let you take her. Vaynar sighed as if disappointed. I had hoped you were smarter than this. He nodded to the soldiers. Remove him. Two soldiers grabbed James, pulling him back. He fought, his fists slamming against armor, but it was useless. They dragged him down the corridor as Lyra reached a trembling hand. Toward him, her cry echoed through the hall. Don't leave me. The words tore James apart. He broke free for a moment, lunging toward her. The soldiers struck him hard, knocking him to the ground. His head spun, vision blurry. But through the haze, he saw Vaynar leaning over Lyra. Don't worry, little one, the commander said coldly. We'll take good care of your gift, Lyra screamed, her chest glowing bright, the crystal pulsing violently. The soldiers stumbled back from the sudden surge of light. James forced himself to his knees, his vision clearing just enough. He saw the fear in her eyes, the betrayal, the pain. And he knew this wasn't just about her anymore. If they took the crystal, if they used her as a weapon, it would destroy everything she had tried to protect. Summoning every ounce of strength, James grabbed a soldier's sidearm, twisting it free before the man could react. He turned the weapon on Vaynar, his voice sharp and unshaken. She stays with me. The corridor froze, every soldier raising their weapon at him. Lyra's glow lit the walls like fire, her breath shallow, her voice trembling. You choose, she whispered. James looked at her, then at the weapons pointed at him. He already knew his choice. His life didn't matter anymore, only hers. He stepped closer to the stretcher, aiming the weapon with steady hands. Anyone takes another step, he said, his voice like steel. They won't live to regret it. Vaynar's cold smile faded. The tension cracked through the warship like lightning, and in that moment James understood. His people had betrayed him, but he would betray them back, not for glory, not for duty, but for her. The warship's corridor was silent, every soldier frozen with weapons raised. James stood firm, The stolen sidearm in his grip, his body shaking but his voice steady. Behind him, Lyra glowed faintly on the stretcher, her eyes locked on him. For one fragile moment, time itself seemed to stop. Commander Vaynar's cold eyes narrowed. "You're a fool, Hale," he said softly. "That thing inside her is not meant for you. It is meant for survival, for power, for Earth. Stand down and live." But James did not lower the weapon. His jaw clenched, his voice rough but full of fire. "She's not a thing, she's alive, she trusts me, and I won't let you take her." The soldiers tensed, ready to fire. Then the glow from Lyra's chest pulsed violently, flooding the corridor. With blue light, everyone shielded their eyes. James turned, his heart sinking. Her body trembled, the crystal burning brighter. Lyra gasped, clutching at her chest. Her voice was weak, almost broken. "It is too late." James rushed to her side, ignoring the weapons pointed at him. He dropped the gun and caught her hand. Her skin was hot, burning like fire. Her glowing eyes met his, full of sorrow and fear. "The crystal, not only mine," she whispered. "It lives, it chooses, it consumes, and now it will end me." James shook his head desperately. No, you'll be fine. I'll protect you, I promised." Her lips trembled into a sad smile. "You already did. You gave me hope." Her voice broke, her tears shimmering like stars. "But if it dies with me, it burns everything, all worlds, all life. Only way. Pass it on." James froze, his breath caught in his throat. "Pass it on? To who?" Her hand pressed against his chest above his heart. Her voice was a whisper. "To you." The soldiers murmured in confusion, Vaynar's voice rising with anger. "Don't listen to her, Hale. That power is poison. It will kill you just as it kills her." James ignored him, his focus only on her. Her glow flickered, fading, her breaths shallow. He realized what she was asking. If she gave him the crystal, it would cost her life, but without it, everything she had fought for would die with her. His eyes burned with tears. "No, there has to be another way. I can't take this from you." Her fingers touched his cheek, soft and trembling. "You already carry me. In your heart, let me give you the rest." Her voice cracked. "Please." James's heart broke. He wanted to refuse, to hold her and keep her alive no matter what. But the light from her chest was flaring uncontrollably, shaking the walls. Around them, the soldiers backed away in fear as the glow grew brighter. Vaynar shouted orders. His voice drowned in the hum of energy. James knew he had no choice. If he said no, she would die and take everything with her. If he said yes, he would lose her but carry her gift. Carry her. He leaned close, pressing his forehead against hers. "I'm here," he whispered, his tears falling onto her glowing skin. "I'll carry you. I promise. I'll never let you go." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then, I am not afraid." The crystal surged, light spilling from her chest like a river of stars. James cried out as the energy wrapped around him, burning through his veins. The soldiers fell back, shielding themselves. Even Vaynar staggered, his eyes wide with awe and rage. James felt his heart explode with fire and ice all at once. Memories not his own flooded his mind. Fields of silver grass, skies filled with alien suns, laughter of voices that were gone forever. Lyra's life, her people, her love, her sorrow all poured into him. He gasped, his body shaking, and then silence. He opened his eyes and the glow was gone from her chest. Her body lay still, lifeless, her silver hair falling across her face. James's hand shook as he held her. No, stay with me," he whispered desperately. But her eyes did not open. Her lips did not move. She was gone. James's chest burned with unbearable pain, but inside the fire was still alive. The crystal had fused with him, pulsing in rhythm with his heart. And in that rhythm he heard her voice, soft but clear. I'm with you." Rage and grief filled him like a storm. He laid her body gently down, standing slowly, his eyes burning with light. The soldiers raised their weapons again, but hesitation filled their movements. Vaynar stared at him, furious and afraid. "You don't know what you've done, Hale. That power belongs to Earth." James's voice thundered, steady and unbreakable. "No, it belongs to her, and now it belongs to me." The corridor shook with the hum of the crystal's energy flowing through him. For the first time, James did not feel weak or small. He felt everything she had been, everything she had lost, her courage, her pain, her love, and with that, he stood unafraid. The hunters were still out there. The soldiers stood ready to fight, but James no longer cared about odds. He had lost her, but he carried her soul, and he would not let her sacrifice be wasted. He raised his glowing hands, the crystal blazing from his chest. "Come then," he whispered, his voice breaking but strong. "Let's finish this." The warship's corridor glowed with light. James stood tall, his chest burning with the living fire of the crystal. Lyra's body lay still behind him, but her voice echoed in his heart. "I am with you." The soldiers hesitated, weapons raised but hands shaking. They had seen her power, and now it burned inside a human. Commander Vaynar's face twisted with fury. "You don't understand what you carry, Hale. That power could make Earth strong, unstoppable. Give her to me. Give it to me." But James only shook his head slowly, his eyes glowing with the light of another world. "It was never yours, it was hers, now it's mine, and I will never let you use it." The crystal hummed inside him. Alive, James raised his hand, and energy burst outward like lightning. The corridor walls shook, sparks raining down. The soldiers stumbled back, blinded by the glow. James felt the power tearing at his body, but it did not break him. Instead, it carried him forward. Lyra's courage, her sorrow, her love, all flowing through his veins. The hunters struck then, their ship slamming against the warship's hull. Metal screamed as claws tore through the hangar. The soldiers scattered in panic as the black-armored hunters stormed inside, weapons blazing. Red fire filled the corridors. Screams echoed through the decks. The warship turned into chaos, and in the center of it stood James, glowing like a star. The hunters saw him and froze. Their red eyes flickered with something new. Fear. They raised their weapons, firing at him. But the blasts bent away. Absorbed by the crystal's energy, James clenched his fists, sending waves of light crashing into them. The hunters flew backward, their armor cracking under the force. For the first time, the predators were prey. But the power cut deeper than victory. Every surge of energy burned through James's body. His muscles ached, his heart screamed. He knew this gift was not meant for a human. It would destroy him if he pushed too far. Still, he stood firm. "Protect it or I'll die." Lyra's voice whispered, and he answered with a silent promise. "I will." Vaynar tried one last time, desperation in his voice. "Hale, listen to me, you can't fight forever. Give the power to us, we can control it, we can save Earth." James turned to him, his glowing eyes cold and fierce. "Save Earth? You would destroy worlds just like the hunters, just like them." His voice thundered through the corridor. "I won't let you." With one final surge, James unleashed the crystal's full strength. Light poured from his chest, tearing through the warship. The hunters screamed as the energy ripped their armor apart. Their weapons shattered, their bodies thrown into the void of space. The walls of the warship shook, systems failing under the storm. But James stood firm, unbroken, until the last shadow fell silent. The corridor was quiet again, smoke and fire filling the air. James dropped to his knees, his body trembling. The crystal's glow dimmed slightly, settling into his chest like a second heart. He looked back at Lyra's still form, lying in the glow of the flames. His throat tightened, his eyes burned with tears. He whispered, "It's over. We did it." And in his heart, her voice answered, "No, James, it is only beginning." He carried her body to the shuttle, moving slowly, every step heavy with grief. The warship burned behind him, pieces breaking apart as alarms wailed. He launched the shuttle into the silent stars, carrying her with him, carrying her gift, her people, her soul. For hours he drifted in silence, his hand never leaving hers. Every beat of his heart carried the rhythm of the crystal, and every whisper of thought carried her presence. She was gone, but not gone. Her breath was his. Her strength was his. He was no longer alone. As the stars stretched endlessly before him, James spoke softly. "I don't know where to go now, but I'll keep going for you." The crystal pulsed gently in his chest, answering him. Her voice brushed his mind like a memory made real. "You are my legacy, James. As long as you live, I live too." He closed his eyes, letting the tears fall. For once they did not feel like weakness. They felt like truth. The universe had taken everything from her, but in the end she had given everything to him. Not just power, but love. Not just sorrow, but hope. James opened his eyes again, staring at the endless stars. The hunters were gone, the warship destroyed, but new dangers would come. He knew he would be hunted as she had been, but he did not fear it, because he carried her with him, her strength, her courage, her voice, her soul. And as the shuttle drifted into the void, his heart burned with light. Not just the light of the crystal, but the light of Lyra. She was gone, yet in him she breathed again forever.